Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Spacemen From Pluto Podcast. I'm your host this week, James, and joining me is...
Ben,
Dan,
and Christian.
And this week, as I'm sure you've all already heard by this point, Gina Carano has officially been sacked from her role on The Mandalorian as Cara Dune.
oh my god.
Probably, definitely rightfully so. Like, she's had some... What was the word that Disney used? Was it abhorrent?
Abhorrent,
views?
yeah.
Abhorrent views.
Abhorrent
She was
views.
warned once already. She didn't tone it down. The views are bad on their own. This has been a long time coming. I don't think anyone's that shocked.
she was certainly on thin. She was certainly on thin ice.
People are
wasn't she?
angry, but I don't think anyone's shocked. This is she's the views are abhorrent. Like Disney hit the nail on the head.
It's Disney. It's the corporation made kind of for children.
Yeah.
Family friendly. You can't go around as an official employee saying things like that. So it's more. I think I watched an interview saying it's more like a breach of contract than necessarily her beliefs. But it was just like, why do that? Why poke the bear? Keep your job and your money. But it has made
she was
made
an
a good
idiot.
topic.
And well, she is an idiot, and the fact that she thinks she's won because now she's going to star in a Ben Shapiro film, just hilarious all in itself.
But so, like, the sort of question on everyone's mind is, going forward, what happens with the character of Cara Dune? Do they write her out, or do they recast her? And, you know, it's not the first time that someone's been recast, and that's what we're here to discuss today. You know, we're just going to have a bit of a chat, have a discussion, and walk you through some of our favourite and maybe some of our least favourite recastings that have happened in the past. Does anyone have one that you want to kick things off with?
Go on, host.
Me? Well,
The host always leads.
Go on, then I'll go first. Mine, from what I remember, I think this is one of the first sort of recastings I actually remember being aware of, because I feel like sometimes when you're a kid, a new actor comes up in a role and they just move on. Sometimes you don't even notice it, maybe. But this was one of the first ones I went, that's not the same guy from the first Iron Man film. That's a completely different person playing James Rhodes.
Ah, yes.
They scrapped Terrence Howard for the sequel.
They certainly did.
Brought in
Absolutely
Donald
binned him.
Cheadle.
Donald.
That's his name.
Donald.
Is his full name Donald? I
don't
know.
I'm assuming that Don is short for Donald, but
Donald?
maybe his name is just Don.
Maybe it's short for Donifer. Who knows?
Yeah. Donny
what
Cheat.
Donathan.
What did? Why did they recast him?
Well, see, because I did a bit of a research for this one. One thing I didn't realise, apparently he was the first person cast for the first Iron Man film. So, like, he was kind of big ticket for the first one. He got paid more than RDJ because he was a bit of up and coming.
Yeah.
And essentially, the reason he wasn't brought back for the sequel is the one that we've heard more than once coming from Marvel, in that particularly early doors, they like to have a lot of control with their actors and their directors. They would like it to have control. Like, they wanted to direct the films in the way they wanted, and they wanted them performed in the way that they wanted. Couple that with, apparently, Terrence Howard was quite difficult to work with. Like, he had a bit of a temper on set. He was a bit hot-headed. So I don't think they sacked him, but they just offered him way less money than he was supposed to have. I think I read earlier he was given $5 million for the first one, I think he was given $3 million, which was supposed to go up to $8 million, and they then offered him $1 million. So they didn't sack him, but they essentially pushed him out the door and went, this is all we're going to give you. And he went, yeah, I'm not taking that, and walked away.
I thought I read that he got offered less because they gave Downey more.
Well, he's said that's what he thinks.
Right.
He's convinced that Downey kind of was part of the reason he was pushed out.
Right.
Well, one of the things that Terrence Howard has been vocal about, and a few other people, I'm pretty sure that Favreau has mentioned it a few times in interviews, is that Terrence Howard and Robert Downey Jr. really did not get on. Like, they apparently clashed constantly on set.
Oh, shit.
And, of course, Terrence Howard, believing rightfully that in the first Iron Man he was the big ticket, figured that they weren't going to get rid of him because he's their big ticket item. But all of a sudden, RDJ turned into the big ticket item. You know, his comeback was massive, and they were like, you know what, we'll just get Don Cheadle. It's fine.
But surely that was always going to happen, though, because Robert Downey Jr. played the title character of Iron Man, and if there was a sequel, he would take centre stage and therefore be paid more.
You would think so.
I don't get it, really.
I don't really rate Terrence Howard's performance in that first one. I think it's very basic, generic. His eyes look a bit like just blank a lot of the time. Like there's not really much going on there. And in the article I was reading earlier, it said like there were just loads of times where they were like, Terrence, do it this way. And he went, no, I want to do it my way. And they were like, shoots took so long because they had to really coax him into doing what the director wanted.
Yeah, I will say I think that Terrence Howard's Rhodey has more sort of swagger to him. He seems like I don't know. He seems a bit like the fact that he's an army. Like, is he a captain or a colonel or
a Colonel Rhodes?
Yeah, colonel. I
think
the fact that he's like he seems like he has that swagger of like someone high up in the military. He has that. He commands that audience. But you can tell that him and Robert Downey Jr. didn't really get on because there's not any charisma between. There's not any chemistry, not charisma, chemistry between like him and Iron Man throughout the film. Like that, I think the best part of Terrence Howard's performance is the bit where he turns around and sees the Mark II armor and then just goes, maybe next time.
I love that's one of my favourite bits. Yeah. He must be the only actor to literally sequelize himself and then not return. It's kind of amazing. It's like one of the funniest bits of the film. It's like, next time, baby. Oh, I don't know about that, mate.
I was going to say, do you reckon he sat there with his popcorn and his drink in the cinema, cross-armed, watching Don Cheadle fly around in an Iron Man suit, being like, "It's my Iron Man suit."
Do you think? Yeah, I'd say that's on. When he gets to Endgame, what does he feel when he's watching Endgame? He's like,
I think he's one of those actors that goes, "Oh, I don't regret the decision." He's got to though.
Yeah, I was going to say he seems like one of those people who'd be like, I don't regret this decision. It was the right decision. I'm doing the best thing for my career possible. And deep inside, he's being like, I'm so stupid. Why don't I just cooperate? All that money.
But that whole next time, baby, that's got to be on par with Dracula Untold's. And so the game begins. No, it doesn't. The game is very much over.
It didn't even begin.
I like the way they dealt with it in Iron Man 2, though. Like the courtroom scene where he appears and it's Don Cheadle, and then they have that clever line. I can't remember the exact words. But
you're not Terrence Howard.
yeah. They literally pretty much say that. They're like, he's like, yeah, it's me.
I think he literally goes, yeah, it's me, I'm here, let's go. Or something like that.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he just waves it off. It's brilliant.
And it's a bit fourth wall breaky.
Yeah.
So, there's the line in Endgame where Nebula puts her arm through the Power Stone like protector and it all burns her up, and she goes, I didn't used to be like this or something, in reference to how Thanos broke her apart and made her more robotic. And then Rhodey goes, yeah, me neither. And I was like, is that a reference to how he's broken his spine and his legs, so he's having to they spoil him? Or was that a meta commentary of like, oh yeah, I didn't used to look like this. I used to look like Terrence Howard.
There is, but now
I like to think it's meta
because of like WandaVision kind of blowing the doors off anything.
Get him back.
There's a chance he could go back. Yeah, chuck him in. Edward Norton, Eric Banner, chuck him in.
I was going to say, this isn't the only MCU recasting we've had, isn't it? We got Bruce Banner was recast. Another one where early doors, Marvel wanted a lot of control, and this person couldn't handle it. Like, I feel like every film that Edward Norton's worked on, there's he put out a good performance, but he wasn't easy to work with.
Yeah.
The thing about Edward Norton is, number one, he's a method actor, and no method actor is easy to work with.
How'd you method act the Hulk?
Yeah, that was
really angry.
Well, it's true, they didn't like him when he was angry.
Number two, the recasting of the recasting of the Hulk was partly on Marvel's part, because Edward Norton famously is one of those people. Christopher Eccleston's another one who will do a role once to say that they've, to say that he wanted to. Edward Norton wanted to be in a superhero film, so he could say that he's tried to be in a superhero film. And he told them outright with his contract that he would not do a further film after the first Hulk. And they were still like, yeah, he's the one for the role.
It must be
it's
a
like,
case.
What? You're trying to build a universe.
It must be like in both Doctor Who. In that case, it's like we don't really know how this is going to go. Let's kind of get some names, and then we'll kind of worry about it later. We might not even get a sequel. This
is the second film, and it came out, so I'm assuming was made at a similar time to Iron Man. So they had no idea what they were in for, really.
Well, the other thing is, at the time, because of course this is all pre-Disney. Of course, the reason that they were made at the same time is Iron Man was Jon Favreau directed under Paramount, whereas The Incredible Hulk was under Universal. So they're completely different film companies as well. So Universal would like, we just want a Hulk film. We don't care about the rest of the universe because it's not our universe, it's their universe.
Imagine Terrence Howard came back.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, though. That would be ridiculous.
And it doesn't sound like they had the best split. It doesn't sound like it was particularly amicable.
I was going to say Terrence Howard is going to be one of them, like Hugo Weaving or Christopher Eccleston, where they had a less than amicable split, because apparently Christopher Eccleston was very hard to work with on Thor: The Dark World.
I heard he got a bit shafted with that, though.
Yeah, he did.
Look what they gave him.
I was going to say, he was like, I think it was like they didn't really let him know what he was in for. He didn't know how long he was going to be sitting in the makeup chair.
His contract forced them to rewrite the ending, because apparently Malekith was meant to pop up in further films, and his contract for everything he's in states, no, my character must die and have no way of being resurrected. I have to die, and if you ever call me and ask me to come back, the answer is no, I will not do it.
I kind of rate it. I didn't know that Hugo Weaving had a bad split with Marvel, though.
Yeah, because
I heard that he was going to come back for Red Skull, but it was just a scheduling conflict.
Well, I don't know. I've heard mixed things, because apparently he's not on the best of terms with Marvel, because, of course, when he was signed for the first Avenger, he put his all into it. He enjoyed being Red Skull. He had a lot of fun with that film, and he'd signed on to do multiple films apparently, or was about to be offered to be signed on to multiple films. But that was the time when Disney were getting close to buying Marvel, so they had different plans, and of course Red Skull hasn't been used since Red Skull wasn't used again until Infinity War and Endgame. So Hugo Weaving was apparently I don't think it was a horrendous split like Terrence Howard. I just think he was very annoyed and upset that he thought he was going to get this like with Lord of the Rings, they brought him back for multiple films as Elrond. Like with The Matrix, he had multiple films as Agent Smith. He thought he had this another like multi-film. He was going to come back for more Captain America films and more Marvel films, and then just wasn't used again. So
I do think that's a shame. I do think that's a bit of a waste of his Red Skull.
Yeah,
it's weird that at least like these actors like Terrence Howard and stuff, they got through. They did it. They went through the filming. There's other cases of recastings where like I wish I wish I was there on the day when they decided like this actor isn't right for the role. We have to stop.
Yeah. How do you tell them?
so I don't have much to say about it, because there isn't much for what I was looking into. There isn't much about him. But the original actor for Aragorn wasn't Viggo Mortensen. It was an actor named Stuart Townsend, I think, Danny. And they cast him. All I've seen of him is just a picture. I think that's what anybody's seen of him. And they were filming for him. I think I've got it here. They were 4 days into filming, and Peter Jackson was like, he's just too young for the role. We've miscast him. And then they had to quickly bring in, I think, Viggo with like little to no training. I think the actor Stuart Townsend trained for the role about the sword fighting and maybe the horse stuff.
How can he have got that far into the whole process?
This is
and
what
then
I was
4 days into filming, Peter Jackson turns around and goes, we don't want you. Sorry,
I was going to say, It's the fact that, because I read into this and I was like, oh well, at least he was only 4 days in, and then it was like, no, he'd done 4 months of combat training and 2 months of horse riding, and it's like, how did no one visit him at any point and see, like, Peter Jackson must have seen him on the back of a horse or holding a sword and been like, no, yeah, I think he's too young, but just let him carry on anyway.
But when you watch the behind the scenes stuff, it's like they were prepping 3 films. They had a year of prep. Peter was planning so much. I think they said like they cast the film before actually getting any of them together. So day 1 of filming was terrifying. So they don't know if it was going to work. So I think that's why they then realised, oh God, but realising Aragorn was too young is a...
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you reckon it's a case of when they saw him on his own, they're like, yeah, that's fine. But when you then put him next to the Hobbits, it's like, there's not clear enough difference between these two
Sean
groups.
Bean as well. It's like, it's crazy. Like, especially, it's a shame there's no footage. It's a shame because everyone else is so perfectly cast. It's really like, it's got to be one of the most perfectly cast. I don't think there's anyone that is...
Including Aragorn.
Yeah, you can't imagine anybody else other than Viggo as Aragorn. I'm not sure. I have to think about it. Is there anyone miscast in those 3 films? I actually don't know.
I mean,
that's maybe a topic for another time.
Yeah, nothing springs to mind.
I don't know, but like, I'd love to see it though. I'd love to see him. A little bit of footage. I'd love it.
I think James hit the nail on the head. I think it was a case of like they watched him and they were like, yeah, he's gonna be the perfect Aragorn. He's great. And then they stood him next to the Hobbits, and he looked at like the same age as like Elijah Wood, and they were like, this is looking less believable. And then he's flicking through the script and he sees that bit where Aragorn reveals that he's 80 odd years old, and he's like, nah, this is not working.
Maybe that was it though. Maybe like they'd never read the script, they'd only ever heard someone read it out, and they got to that point and went, oh, 80! I thought you said 18.
Could you imagine little Peter Jackson with his coffee in his hand? What? I
was going to say full spit take. 80. Did you say 80?
Yeah, but like, I guess an even worse case. I don't know. I can't remember how far into filming they got. I think because we've got 4 days in my head. It might be like 4 weeks or 4 months maybe. But the original Marty McFly, Eric Stoltz. Like, there's footage of him. You can search on YouTube footage of Eric Stoltz, and it's crazy how it just doesn't work. He literally is just not the right guy for the role. I think that's why they recast him. Am I mistaken? I think he was just the wrong guy because I think wasn't Michael J.
It's
Fox,
like things like that. Like when you go to that Aragorn actor, you can say, look, I'm really sorry, you're performing fine, it's just you don't look right, we've realised this. How do you go to someone that far into a film and go, I'm really sorry, I just don't like what you're doing, to the point where I haven't got any direction for you, we're just recasting you.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's brutal.
The thing is, I don't know how Eric Stoltz took it, and I don't know how they told him, but I know that the original the original plans was to have Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly. Like, he was written as Michael J. Fox, and they went to Michael J. Fox and he auditioned and they were like, yes, he's perfect. But when they were filming, Michael J. Fox was filming Family Ties, I think it was. And so they ended up casting Eric Stoltz instead, where they filmed for like 4 weeks with him. Were like, sorry, you're not right. But by the time they'd done that, Michael J. Fox, I think he'd been written out of Family Ties by that point. He was no longer a part of the show and wasn't needed for any further filming. So they were like, great, we've got our Marty McFly back.
I think Christian might be a bit mistaken. I think I've read
controversy on the podcast.
I read that apparently. I think during the day, Fox was filming Family Ties, and then had any time off he had was also doing Back to the Future. Like, he was working like double time, and like the day shoots I think were just his weekends. I think controversy on the Spacemen From Pluto podcast.
I was going to say maybe that was the case, but I remember that the reason that he wasn't cast originally was because he was too busy with Family Ties. So I think I don't know if they wrote him out. I mean, I've never seen Family Ties, but I don't know if they wrote him out. But maybe throughout the season he got a lesser part, so had more time to be able to go and film Back to the Future.
It must be so deflating though to like do all the prep for a role, meet all the cast, get into character, arrive at set, start filming scenes, and suddenly it's like, yeah, we don't think this is working. It must be such a horrible feeling, and then
it becomes,
what a deflated feeling that must be.
It becomes one of the most iconic films.
Yeah, exactly.
Of film history, of pop culture.
Do you reckon that there's ever been a casting of like a proper massive egomaniac method actor who has started filming and been like 2 weeks into filming, the director's been like, he's totally wrong for this part, like they're horrendous in this part, and then they're like, well, why don't you just like tell him, and we've got the budget and the time to recast, and he's like, nah, they're terrifying. Like, I don't want to mess with that. Like, could you imagine going to Christian Bale 2 weeks into filming after all the prep that he's done and being like, sorry, we're going to have to recast you? Could you imagine how much he'd flip his lid? Someone like him or Jared Leto or like another maniac method actor.
Jared Leto,
Christian Bale would be great, because if he's like shared or put on all the weight for one of the roles, and then like, nah, someone else, please.
Walk up to Batman, 8-foot Batman, and tell him he's not right, and see, Tom Hardy's Bane, and be like, yeah, you're not right, mate. And he's like, what? what did you say to me? Like, I think Marlon Brando was famously just a bit of a prick.
Well, didn't you talk to us about the Island of Dr.
Don't mince your words, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben.
In
previous podcasts, like he demanded to be painted white. Like, even though that wasn't written in the script, he demanded to be painted with white paint, and he had all these other stipulations. He refused to film any scenes unless they were fulfilled, and it was just
didn't rehearse his lines. He read his lines off camera, like in The Godfather. People had it just like so. If Al Pacino's back is to the shot, on his front is the lines, and Marlon Brando's just reading them off. Things like,
but it's like back then.
He used that classic excuse of, I want to keep it fresh. I did GCSE drama. I know what that's code for. That's code for I can't be asked rehearsing these lines.
Yeah.
Oh, Christ. But back then, you could get away with that sort of behaviour, even as recently as when Bale had his flip out, because we had this reverence to the actors. We can't speak up, we can't stand up to them, kind of thing, and the actors would get away with that and worse, as would happen. Yeah, but now, like, I don't think actors can really get away with that, because there's always someone recording, there's always someone ready to call you out and expose you, which is probably a good thing. Do you guys remember the Tom Cruise recently, the Tom Cruise thing, where he kind of had an on-set flip out, but like it actually turned out to be quite a good thing.
I think I'm actually on Tom Cruise's side.
I was on Tom Cruise's side. He maybe could have gone about it a bit better.
Yeah.
But it did sound like he flipped out.
He was just very passionate.
I was going to say he flipped out over something that was number one, absolutely a problem that could be flipped out over, and number two, it did sound like he was like he'd asked them several times already, and they just ignored him being nice and asking them, so he just flipped his lid.
And my thing with that one was, it's like, it's something they should be doing. It's the kind of thing that if it gets out that they're not doing, it can shut the production down and they all lose their jobs. And B, if pictures of it come out or like people find out, the headlines aren't going to be, oh, Kenny the sound guy and John the cameraman weren't wearing their mask. The headlines will be, crew on Tom Cruise's film seen not wearing masks. Like, it will be his name and his head on the platter.
Yeah, it's his head on the platter at the end of the day, and it would be, like you say, it would be headlines. It'd be like, on the set of Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible 7. Yeah. Like, it would be his name plastered all over it, and he's like, I'm wearing a mask, I'm doing it.
You can hear the mask on his face, his voice is muffled, you can hear it on his face, and he sounds, this isn't related, it's totally diverted, but like, I really feel the stress and how tired, when he says to him like, we're fighting for the survival of our industry. I'm on the phone to all the movie studios every night. I was like, mate, he's put all this burden on his shoulders. Maybe unnecessarily so. It's just a film.
Maybe just calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, he'll be all right, won't he?
He'll survive. He'll be alright. He's got money.
Not to undermine his point or anything, but do you reckon that he was like midway through filming a scene when people were chatting, and he, because he was filming a scene, he didn't have his mask on. He was like, right, got to yell at these guys. It's just sat there, and it's like pinging off his ears, and he's like, God damn it, trying to get the mask on so that he could yell at them.
Yeah, I wonder if the person who recorded it thought, "Oh, I'm going to get him in trouble," but then it actually backfired.
I would say it backfired massively. And then there was that big like news a few days later where it was like half of the crew leaves, and it's like, good. Like that's a problem for Tom Cruise. He's got like all he has to do is walk out and be like, "Hey, does anyone want to help out on my movie?" And there's thousands of crew lined up who will be like, "Yes, absolutely."
I guess we don't know the full story with it all.
We've only heard bits and pieces, but to be honest, it sounds like Tom Cruise wanted a COVID-safe set, and some people were not being very COVID-safe.
But sometimes during filming, or when you're making a sequel of films, an unfortunate thing may happen where a cast member might pass away, and you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, so you have to recast the film. What a segue. Thanks, guys. Thank you. And
I was thinking it, but then you said it, and it suddenly lost all meaning.
What do we think about the Dumbledore recasting from Richard Harris to Michael Gambon?
I think it's a shame, but also, I think it's sad the reason that they had to recast, and I think Richard Harris is really good in those first two films, but I think there's a lot that Michael Gambon's Dumbledore has to do that I just can't see Richard Harris doing. When he's actually got to do any sort of like duels or spells, I can't really see Richard Harris being able to lift the wand, let alone do the arm actions.
I mean, there is some criticisms of the later Dumbledores, especially concerning a certain
Go on, Ben.
asking Harry
Do it,
politely
Ben. Do it.
if he put his name in
Ben, you know you want
the
to.
Goblet of Fire.
Me? Oh,
Do it, Ben, you know you
no.
want to.
Why have I got to do it?
Because you do it
for me, monkey.
Because you're a soundboard, Ben. All it takes is someone to mention a
We all
scene at
know
one point and you burst into a quote.
We all know what the line is. I don't need to say it.
In the book, it says he describes something calmly. In the film, he explodes.
Pins him up against the wall.
And it's quite funny. Now do an impression, Ben. He's not doing it. He's got self-respect.
I think, look, so it is a shame that they had a cast member die after the first two films, and they had to recast. I also think maybe let's just count our blessings. There's a huge cast, and a lot of them are getting on. I think we're lucky we only had the one, to be honest.
Good Lord, James.
I mean,
you're right.
I'd say in terms of there's quite, to be fair, they're all quite Star Wars. They not to go too far. They're older. They were that one made me really sad. That period where like Carrie passed away, Han Solo's dead, and then I was like, they're all dying. My childhood. But going back to Dumbledore, I do find Richard Harris's one way more
gravitas.
Fatherly, and I feel more power behind him.
I don't know about power.
I do. He's got something about, and also,
I never find him threatening.
I've never seen somebody clap like him. Look it up. He has. He taps. No, like this. No, he's not Charlize Theron, Danny. for audio listeners, he's tapping.
Like he taps the top of his fingers
onto the back of his other fingers. It's very strange.
It's bizarre.
No, I get what you mean. Like, I would agree with James that I think that, like, Michael Gambon's is more powerful, but in those first two films, Dumbledore is definitely feels more magical.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
he definitely feels more like this sort of
Proper
grand magical wizard who is there to, like, bring about a new generation of wizards in this magical school, whereas in later films I did my watch through in the first lockdown, and in the later films, he just seems to give Harry some terrible advice.
Oh, he's awful.
Like,
he
is
not a good father
really
figure.
awful.
That's the problem with the books, though,
Yeah.
because the books didn't know what they were doing towards the end, I think.
Yeah. I think you're right, Christian. I think Richard Harris suits the first two films, Chris Columbus style to a T.
Yeah.
And then Michael Gambon, I know it's his first film, but really fits so well into the style of Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, I was going to say he fits better as the films get darker.
Yes.
Am I correct in saying Ian McKellen was considered for Dumbledore?
I think it was Gandalf. I think he was in the talks of being Gandalf. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a really good casting.
Oh, God.
Mordor Frodo. That's my Sean Connery impression. That was really bad.
He was
really
considered for
bad.
Gandalf, though, wasn't he?
Sean Connery was considered for Gandalf.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did James
Ian
say?
McKellen was considered for Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe, I don't know.
I've
Maybe.
probably just
I
made
don't
that
know.
up.
Well,
Yeah.
probably all of it. They're all kind of that old grand actor. They're probably in line for all those roles.
Everyone's
aren't they?
considered for every role until they narrow it down.
Talking of people who were considered for roles and didn't end up getting them, my picks are towards that end. So the first one I'd like to talk about is probably my favourite one, actually. I'll talk about that first. Indiana Jones was originally going to be Tom Selleck. Did you know that,
Yeah.
James?
I did not know that.
He was lined up for the role. He had been officially cast, I believe, by Spielberg, and it turned out that he had a scheduling conflict with Magnum PI, the 80s show, and he chose that over Indiana Jones. I wonder if that was the right decision. I don't know.
For
What
the
do you
film,
think,
it
guys?
was.
I think it's the role that was his most iconic role, wasn't it? I think it benefited him, but maybe not in the.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about his career if it benefited him in the long run. Like
Yeah.
obviously, like it
He was in
cemented
Friends,
Harrison.
he did fine.
Oh, did it? Was he? Okay.
He
It
was.
cemented Harrison Ford as like an icon of cinema forever.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
And
why
that's-
I think
that's-
it's better
that's
for
regardless
the film that he
of-
turned it down.
That's just without Han Solo and
Yeah,
Blade Runner. So
I
it's
thought
crazy.
I thought you were going to say that it was going to be Tom Selleck originally, and then Harrison Ford landed a plane on him, so they were like, "Well,
yeah, but like it's interesting though, because maybe if Tom Selleck did end up playing Indiana Jones wouldn't be as iconic a character. He wouldn't have brought the same thing to the performance. He wouldn't have been in Magnum PI.
Oh no! Harrison
have been-
Ford would have been in Magnum
Somehow,
PI.
yeah. I know, yeah. So, but I find it interesting. It's one of those weird parallel world ideas that you have, a bit like Aragorn and a bit like, what's his name from Back to the Future? What was
Eric
his name?
Stoltz.
Eric Stoltz. We have these possible realities that we could have had where it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah,
There's
even just
something
talking about it, something feels a bit unsettling.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, thanks to WandaVision, Tom Selleck can come back
He's back.
as Indiana Jones. Anything can happen now.
oh
mean,
man, WandaVision's
that could
opened all these doors."
I mean, Disney now own the rights to Indiana Jones, so maybe it happens. Who knows?
yeah.
Oh, that'd
Nothing
be
is
sick.
impossible.
Disney own the
Everything
rights.
is permitted.
Disney own the rights, and the first thing they've chosen to do is to get Bethesda to make a video game.
Yeah, how are we feeling about that video game, by the way?
I think it's a weird choice to give it to Bethesda, but that's just me. I mean, they gave
We'll
it to the
see.
Wolfenstein guys, so at least they've got all the like Nazi flag assets that they can just reuse from the Wolfenstein games.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Wolfenstein was
punching
pretty good, I
Nazis.
thought.
Yeah, but I
Really difficult, though.
I'm hoping it's not a first-person shooter. But
I think it will
Oh,
be.
surely
If it's
not.
Wolfenstein, you want it to be Uncharted.
Wolfenstein.
Yeah. But that's that.
That was so good. Yeah, that was really, on my end, that was so good.
That's my only apprehension with creating a Indiana Jones video game. It's like, but we already have 4 of those.
yeah, that was my thing.
Yeah,
It's
but he
like
doesn't have a hat on.
yeah, that was my thing. It's like it's cool that we're finally going to see Indy in a proper video game that wasn't a reskinned Spider-Man one. Sorry, Carl.
Oh, calling out the audience, calling out fans of the show.
But I like we had Tomb Raider, which was essentially based on the Indiana Jones film. We have Uncharted, which is essentially based on it. Like we have all these games where they were like, well, we can't make an Indiana Jones game, so we'll make an Indiana Jones game that doesn't have Indiana Jones in. Whereas now I feel like most of the younger audience who maybe aren't as well aren't into Indiana Jones like we are will play this new one and be like, you just reskinned Uncharted. They've just ripped off Nathan Drake. It's like,
Yeah.
I hope they make it original.
Just remind me, it's like when people watch a film that's made before Stranger Things in the 80s, like, oh, it's like Stranger Things.
Yeah.
No, what do you think? Stranger Things is like this. You fool. Yes.
Also, a quick one I wanted to mention was American Psycho. Originally,
Oh yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio was considered heavily for the role. I think the script was written with him in mind because he was playing so much against type at that point in his career. He'd just come off Titanic, and I guess they were thinking, yeah, we want this kind of golden boy of Hollywood to play this ultra a literal psychopath. But I think there was some kind of... I'm not sure what the issue was. I think it was probably scheduling conflicts or something of that nature. Or maybe Leonardo turned it down.
I was going to say, I think from what I heard, it wasn't Leonardo that turned it down. It was Leonardo's agent that turned it down.
It was Donatello. No.
Oh,
Why have I said that?
No, it was...
Awful.
It was really bad. I'm
loved it.
sorry.
I
That
loved
was
it.
great. That was great.
No, that was perfect.
Thanks.
It was his agent that apparently was basically the way they put it was Leonardo DiCaprio has this image now. He is the Hollywood pretty boy. He is this like desire. He is like the most desirable man. He's like he is the Hollywood actor at that period, and they didn't want to put him in a film where that was anything was going to damage his image.
Yeah.
They didn't want to basically take that sort of fresh off Titanic, oh my god, look at how handsome he is, blah blah blah, sort of pretty boy romantic actor, and then make him a psychotic woman killer and completely ruin all credibility. So his agents were like, no, he's not doing it.
Yeah.
So what exactly happened between that and Django Unchained and Wolf of Wall Street?
Oh well,
He
he'd already
became a good
established
actor.
himself.
He just gradually
He got good.
got better, didn't he?
He
I don't know what
already-
the turning point in his career was.
I'm
but
so
he's-
glad he didn't do American Psycho, because that's
Yeah.
the era of DiCaprio where all he did was just scream. Like
Yeah.
he was like talking on it, or he screamed. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad he's not American Psycho.
Christian Bale brings so much to that role, though. It's another role I can't imagine anyone else really playing, because he's just the perfect kind of pitch perfect performance, like funny, like menacing, and just weird, like unhinged, but kind of weirdly funny with it. And I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio could have pulled that off in the same way.
No,
So.
like I mean, that his agent was right. Like Leonardo DiCaprio at the time was too much of that sort of like pretty boy, well-known actor. That and though he is an amazing actor now, he did, like Ben said, he didn't quite have the gravitas to probably pull off convincing Patrick Bateman back then. Whereas Christian Bale, who at the time was a relatively unknown actor, was a sort of a better choice because he could fully encapsulate himself into this role, and people watching the film could fully believe his performance rather than being like, that's Jack from Titanic.
I thought he died.
Have you not seen Titanic 2 Jack's Back?
Was he recast?
He was, yes. Time was so trash? No.
I feel like that's kind of in the period of, particularly sort of like late 90s, early 2000s. Every big role that had a young male in it, if you go down a list of potential castings, Leo's on that list. Like, he was considered for every big role at that point. Because wasn't he going to be Spider-Man at one point? Like, he was going to be, instead of Tobey Maguire, he was in the running for that.
Yeah, it was going to be... who was directing now?
Sam Raimi.
No, it was...
Mark Webb.
no,
Oh, John Watts.
no. You're not helping me here. But yeah, it was Leonardo DiCaprio.
One second, I just need to look up who directed Spider-Verse.
It was Leonardo DiCaprio, and he was I can't remember who it was now. It was someone. James Cameron.
Oh yeah, that little indie director.
No, because my brain kept going Tim Burton, and I was like, no, it wasn't Tim Burton's Spider-Man. Who was it? Leonardo DiCaprio was written in mind for James Cameron's Spider-Man.
I think I have heard this now that you mention it.
That makes sense because he did Titanic. They worked together on Titanic. The logic's there.
That was way too much digging in the back of my mind for.
Side note: how desperate do you think James Cameron was? Like, how much do you reckon he wished that he could have had a young Leo to play young John Connor in Terminator 2? Like, he gave them the same haircut as Jack and everything.
Do you reckon that was?
I don't know. I don't. That's just like the style of time. It's very funny you bring up James Cameron in Terminator because apparently there was another actor who was going to play Hicks in Aliens, an actor called James Remar. And they originally, he was let go from production over creative differences. They didn't get along, clearly. And then they brought in Michael Biehn because he knew him from Terminator. So Hicks wasn't originally Michael Biehn. That's pretty quick one for you there. Yeah. Oh, he was actually fired for possession of drugs.
That's quite different from creative differences.
Yeah, that's not a creative difference.
That's a creative difference.
It's a creative difference about what's illegal or not.
Holy shit, Michael Biehn was brought on to replace the actor, but the latter's back can still be seen in certain shots that were too expensive to reshoot.
Wow.
This probably isn't going to be much of an issue for audio listeners, but for any of you who are watching this on YouTube on the video, you've probably been sat there this whole time wondering what is Christian's background about. So Christian, go on. Do you want to tell us what you've brought to the table, what your pick is?
Yeah, so the background might be a bit niche. I think Ben picked it up. But yeah, I want to talk about V for Vendetta.
I thought it was that.
Who was recasting that?
Which is a big I really enjoy that film, and I didn't realize until because I watch it every year on
Christmas.
No, yeah, Christmas, obviously.
Halloween.
Yeah, obviously. I watch it every year on
Easter.
Halloween and Christmas and at Easter. I watch it 3 times. I watch it every year on Bonfire Night. No. I watch it every year on Bonfire
Hanukkah.
Night.
Shrove Tuesday. Bank Holiday Monday.
There's several Bank Holiday Mondays. Yeah, but it's become a tradition to watch it every Bonfire Night.
Bonfire Night. Oh.
Hey!
God, this is going to be like a 4 or 5 minute section of this podcast.
I'm
It's
sorry,
going to be great.
You'll
everyone.
love to see it.
I don't know.
God,
what's
let's
wrong
hope the
with
audience
you.
think
to
we're
see
half
it.
as funny as we do.
That was great. Who can't like that? Sorry, Christian.
And now I will go into my.
Yeah, I won't interrupt.
Yeah, no, I watch it every year on.
He's forgotten it now.
No,
Christmas
come on
Eve.
completely
Boxing
blanked
Day.
me now.
now. We're so sorry about that.
Bonfire Night, mate.
Yeah, I watch it. I watch it every year on Bonfire Night.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, Bonfire Night. Oh, right.
Yeah, that makes
Oh, you
sense.
should have said.
It's
Why?
No, it's been a long time.
No, let's carry on. I'm sorry, Christian. I'm sorry.
It's been a favorite. It's been. I can't even go.
What have we devolved into?
It's 2:30 in the morning.
I promise. I swear. I won't do anything. I swear. I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's been one of my favorite films like ever since I first saw it. And I didn't realize until a few years ago when I was looking into it that Hugo Weaving was not originally cast to play V. It was James Purefoy.
Oh, who the hell is that?
He's in the fucking Knight's Tale, mate. Oh, swore. Oh, shit.
Oh, we'll get demonetized now.
Oh.
Even though we don't have a
even though we're not monetized.
Joke's on you, you can't demonetize it.
Yeah, we should swear if we would.
Boom.
Sorry, Mum.
But yeah,
I
I had no idea who James Purefoy was, but I was reading into why he didn't end up being V, and apparently it wasn't the Wachowskis' choice to not have him play V. It wasn't anyone else's choice. It was his own choice. Basically, he filmed for 6 weeks and complained profusely on set about having to wear the mask.
Oh, yeah.
He said it was hot, it was uncomfortable, it was sweaty, he hated it, and in the end he didn't think it was going to be a very good film, so he decided to walk away.
Wow.
Literally.
So the Wachowskis ended up getting Hugo Weaving, someone who they knew quite well, someone who they'd worked with before on 3 Matrix films. And because, luckily for them, it was very easy to replace V with Hugo Weaving, because all they had to do was have him re-record over Purefoy's lines for the shots that had already been done.
So it's not Hugo
So
Weaving?
is it?
It's not even Hugo Weaving behind the mask half the time.
Really?
So
I did not know
is it
that.
James Purefoy? I'm going to rewatch it now.
It's
Look
James
it up.
Purefoy in several of the scenes, and they just re-recorded the dialogue
Right.
because
wow.
they were like, it's the cheapest way to do it. They didn't have to, because he's in
Curious
a
to know what
mask. It didn't
scenes
matter.
Yeah.
You've got to re-record them anyway. Like the original
Yeah.
actor would have had to
ADR,
record them
yeah.
anyway. So
Exactly,
you've got a
so-
different person. So it's not actually cost them anything.
No, it was apparently like the easiest recasting, and I genuinely can't imagine anyone else sort of pulling off V with the sort of suave gravitas where you kind of there's parts of the film where you hate him, there's parts of the films where you love him, and I don't know that like Hugo Weaving just
a great voice.
he has
That
a great
TV
voice,
broadcast
and
scene is
Yeah.
incredible.
the
That monologue.
the way he delivers lines is just perfect, and I can't imagine
Yeah.
anyone else doing that. So that was like a big one for me, just sort of finding out that they didn't cast you because
I really didn't. I did not know that at all.
Yeah,
I
well,
thought it was
when-
Hugo Weaving all the way through that film. And
yeah, when I found out that it wasn't Hugo Weaving all the way through, it made sense that it was Hugo Weaving, because like I said, they'd worked with him before, so they were just like, hey, we need someone else to we need someone to come in and play V. Do you want to do it?
Yeah. Again, though, you couldn't really imagine anyone else in that role,
No.
because even though it is just a voice role, kind of mostly,
Yeah.
it's the exact right tone, the kind of really theatrical Shakespearean style actor, and it translates very well over that character as well.
It's crazy how some of these roles turn out to be like staples of cinema, almost some of them. I think there's quite a few more we can talk about another time, another week, maybe if another recasting news goes down. We can do a part 2.
There was
Yeah,
one more
don't
that I was going
mention
to
as well.
quickly mention. That isn't technically a recast, but I wanted to bring up because I think it's one of the cleverest. It might not be the best film in the world, but it's one of the cleverest cases I've ever seen of recasting, which was the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
I was going to say this, yeah.
And of course, Heath Ledger, it was the last film that Heath Ledger was in, and he unfortunately passed away midway through the filming. So they didn't know how they were going to complete the film, and in the end, they decided to sort of, because it was a fantasy film anyway, they decided that as the character passed through into different realities, the actor would change. So Heath Ledger's part is actually played by Heath Ledger for a large portion of the film, but also Johnny Depp, Jude Law, and Colin Farrell
Yeah,
all play the same role all in one film.
I think they were mates of Heath as well, so they kind of
Yeah.
like volunteered to kind of help finish the work.
That's quite interesting. That in 2 different films, Colin Farrell and Johnny Depp have played the same character.
Yes.
Oh wow.
And now we get a new talking.
Little bit of tidbit.
Maybe we shouldn't. Should we talk about that recasting? Maybe we shouldn't talk about
Yeah,
that.
maybe that's not talking about
Yeah.
recasting.
That makes me angry.
But that actor's going to be recast. That role is going to be recast again.
It should have
Has
been
been
Colin
recast.
Farrell in the first place. He was great.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
But there's sort of questions as to whether the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus is actually a great film. I thought it was decent, but I just thought that was like a really nice way of doing a recasting and a really nice way of sort of honouring the performance that Heath Ledger gave without having to completely remove him from the film.
Yeah.
Quite lucky as well that they got a lot of the majority of his stuff shot and set in the real world as well. I agree, Christian.
Yeah.
Super quick before, if Danny's going to transition into the hypothetical, where would I be if I didn't quickly bring up, of course, Krull? Super quick.
For God's sake.
Robbie Coltrane's voice was dubbed over, and so was the princess's voice was dubbed over. So you could say they were recast. There we go. I've got my Krull in.
So some other news that's dropped recently is that apparently we're getting a Face Off sequel. I'm not really sure why. I've not seen the original. I don't really know what it's about. But
we've got to watch it.
I'm sure we'll watch it at some point down the line. But Ben then came up with the idea that the hypothetical for this week is similar to the film. Which two actors would we want to see in one film swap each other's faces and then have to play each other? That's right, isn't it? I've got that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Is there any other details you want to clarify on this one, Ben, before we get into it?
I'm going to be honest. I kind of didn't listen. So I don't really know what you said. So I was drinking my drink and looking at my choices. I think you've probably nailed it.
You
based on absolutely just a guess.
You casting two actors. They're going to swap faces and they can kind of play off each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
In a Face-Off sequel.
In a face-off sequel, yeah. That's what James said.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
We'll see in the video. if he does say that.
Does anyone want to go first, or shall I just go with
Go on,
mine?
host.
Lead us in.
So mine, and bear in mind, like I said, I've never seen Face Off, so this could be completely wrong and make no sense. I would love to see an imaginary film where you have both Jim Carrey and Robin Williams playing off each other. I think their comedic energies would match really well, and I think maybe I want to see Jim Carrey try and do some of Robin Williams' characters and vice versa. I think that's kind of what I really want to see. I just think that their comedy styles would match and swap quite well. I just think that'd be fun to see for a bit.
Surely you're talking like peak mid-90s Carey.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the Robin Williams era. I think Aladdin was around that time, so he's kind of at the height of his powers.
Aladdin, Flubber, Mrs. Doubtfire, your Ace Ventura, Bruce Almighty, Liar Liar.
Yes.
Right, okay. Yeah. It's
Peak
kind of
Carey.
Yeah. Pete Carey versus Peak Williams in like a comedy character.
Who can say
battle.
the most jokes in a minute?
I think that it'd just become an ego battle. It wouldn't even be funny. It'd just be they're trying to outdo each other.
Yeah, it would almost be
just
like
one up each other.
Some weird
until they both kill each other.
It'd be like an overload of like just insanity.
I was going to say I couldn't imagine like I would love it if there was like almost if there was a third main character. Doesn't matter who they're played by, who has to watch Robin Williams acting like Jim Carrey and Jim Carrey acting like Robin Williams at each other, and he's just stood on the sidelines like, what is going on?
Yeah, Jeff Daniels has to be Jeff Daniels, the guy to watch. They could have like an impression off. They were both pretty solid at impressions. They could probably do impressions to each other like Rob Brydon and Steve Coogan did in their show. I would. It's a shame that maybe because they have a similar high character shtick. Maybe that's why they never kind of crossed paths in film.
So, yeah.
I wonder if that's why. Don't cross the streams. But let's cross the streams and see what happens. I quite enjoyed it.
It worked for the Ghostbusters.
Have they ever made reference to each other? You know, in interviews, Robin Williams says, "I respect Jim Carrey. He comes from the same school of comedy as I do," or such and such. I wonder if that's ever happened. That'd be interesting. Yeah. I mean, obviously no one will know that, so it's kind of a pointless thing to ask, but oh well.
Cut that.
No.
I'm in control now.
Yeah. Nobody controls me. What did he say in Transformers? I don't know. Fuck knows. That was 20 years ago we watched that.
Go on then, we'll throw to one of you. Christian. Who do you want to see in a Face-Off sequel?
I had some fun with this, and I came up with multiple ideas. And like with Face-Off, I tried to go with that sort of manic actor with a sort of more sort of straight and concise dramatic actor. So the two main ones I came up with was Jack Black on one side with Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh
because
my good lord!
Because it was utterly hilarious to me. Not Jack Black acting like Joaquin Phoenix, but Joaquin Phoenix trying to pull off a Jack Black.
Ooh, but can anyone but Jack Black pull off a Jack Black?
No. But it would be great to see, like, just the sort of amazing, like, into it method actor that Joaquin Phoenix is. I would just love to see someone say to him, and now you and Jack Black have swapped faces and you are Jack Black. And he's like, right. And he goes off and he basically observes everything Jack Black has ever done, like, just absorbs those mannerisms and becomes him.
I feel like this is going to be another Batman Forever situation where by the end of it, Phoenix is like, I cannot sanction his buffoonery.
Yeah, I imagine that they would, like, Jack Black and Joaquin Phoenix would not get along.
Oh my god, can I change my answer to Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey?
That was one I'd written down.
Because that's a great one.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
man,
would go off well each other.
Yeah.
Because
it would just be them mocking each other because they hate each other.
If they mocked each other, it would work really well. That's why, like, it's a shame nobody told Tommy Lee Jones not just play it straight, Two Faces straight, don't be the Joker. But anyway, go on, Christian.
The other one that I had in mind was I chose Jake Gyllenhaal as the straight sort of dramatic actor piece, and put him up with Matthew Lillard.
I mean, I never would have said it myself, but I love it.
No, just to come out of left field. I don't know. Like, again, this would be one of those where I'd put them with their 90s versions. So I'd put, like...
So who's Matthew Lillard for those who are the uninitiated?
Yeah, so his most famous parts are... He is... God, what's his character's name in Scream?
Just say he's Shaggy in Scooby-Doo, bro.
Yeah. Well, he's Shaggy in Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, in the live-action Scooby-Doo.
In the live-action Scooby-Doo, he plays Shaggy, but the other famous role is his role in Scream.
I want to say it's like Jamie or Jason or Jacob.
Yes, something like that.
He was also in Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yes,
he was in Twin Peaks.
He's quite good, isn't it?
He has range.
Yes.
But I would put, like, 90s Scream mental Matthew Lillard with like...
I'm just going to stop you now. It's just Lillard. It's not Lillard.
Is it Lillard?
Just so you don't keep saying it in case.
Matthew Lillard. I would put mental.
I didn't want to be that dick that corrects you, but also if you were going to keep saying his name, I didn't want you to look back and
it was
like,
it was mental 90s Matthew Lillard from Scream with, like, dark, depressing, straight-laced Donnie Darko Jake Gyllenhaal, because I just feel like them trying to play each other would be a lot of fun. And then quickly I just thought of a joke third answer, and you know, we've been waiting for this sequel to Twins, triplets, for ages. Screw it, never mind, just do a Face-Off sequel, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger swap.
Yes. See, again, we're at this awful point of the hypotheticals where I'm like, yes, I want to see that film, and I'll never get to see it. These are so unsatisfying.
Well, thanks to WandaVision, we never know what's going to happen.
You got there first.
Thank you. I'm here every episode.
I'm here all night.
Sorry, Dan.
It's alright, mate. You know.
Yeah,
Side note, I looked it up. He was called Stuart in
quick and easy.
Scream, so it's nothing like what we were saying.
No, we tried.
Go on, Dan, you go.
Mine, I only really have one, and I think it's a strong one. It's an interesting one, I think. These two actors are both diametrically opposed, and I would love to see them approach each other's personalities and try to pull them off to prove that they have range. So I would pick Brian Blessed.
Strong
one
start. Strong start.
And I would have him swap faces with Ryan Gosling.
Oh, he's brought it home.
The real question here is, Dan, who keeps the voice? Is it Brian Blessed's voice in Ryan Gosling's body, or does
No,
Brian...
Ryan has to do Brian's cadence because he's playing
Ryan and Ryan.
Yeah.
And then Brian will have to do Ryan's cadence because they're playing each other.
I want to see, because Brian Blessed, we all know and love Brian Blessed. He's an insane, he's unashamedly insane. And he's very loud and very extroverted and basically a madman. And we've seen him in a lot of films. You know, Flash Gordon, of course, we remember him from. That's one of his notable films. The whole Gorgon's alive thing. I won't put everyone through an impression, but we all know it.
Gordon's alive!
There we go. He stepped up.
I told you, he's just a soundboard.
But you can't force it. That's the thing. You've got to let it come out organically. You know?
Is it even a good... I don't even know if that was a good... I just said the line.
And yeah, Ryan Gosling, pretty much, I don't know if you guys agree, famously pretty monotonous, doesn't bring much range to his roles, sometimes for the best. Sometimes it suits it. The role.
I'd say the most. I'd say
James
the most
disagrees.
out there role. I'd say the most out there role he's played recently. I'd say the most out there role that's less Ryan Gosling that he's played recently would probably be The Nice Guys. That would be even then he's playing a sort of comedic version of himself, but he does have that sort of like pan-faced, sort of flat tone.
It's not that panning Crazy Stupid Love. Good in that.
I mean, I like Ryan Gosling as an actor, though. Even though he's never been one for these roles that are super extravagant.
He's understated.
Yeah, exactly. But I like it.
He's a great parallel to Brian Blessed.
Yeah, like I want to see if Ryan Gosling can pull off Brian. Oh, I'll rephrase that.
Sorry?
That's not face off, that's jerk off.
Oh, this guy.
It's just hit after hit with these jokes tonight.
Maybe we can record all our podcasts at 3 a.m.
Yeah, because we've just gone loopy.
We need that insanity.
Oh, we're all hopped up on sugar.
Coffee, sugar, no sleep. It's great.
Yeah. For audio listeners, that makes no sense. I was going to make reference to the time. For audio listeners, it's 3 a.m. For video listeners, anyway,
for everyone, it's 3 a.m.
For everyone who might be experiencing this car crash through whatever medium, it's 3 a.m.
God, can you imagine if we ever did like long length streams?
What? I didn't catch a single word.
You said.
I just said, can you imagine if we ever did like long length streams?
Didn't get a word of that, mate.
Devolve into.
It wouldn't work. This shit.
I kind of want to.
I couldn't handle it. I don't think I could handle.
No, we
having
couldn't.
like a big light in my face on stream for just hours. Well, we do that anyway. I can't handle it. It gives me headaches. I'm only little.
Right, go on then, Ben. Do you want to round us off with yours?
Danny kind of.
Have I stole the show again?
Yeah.
Oh no! Come on, Ben.
I've got a kind of a few, and I just don't know anymore. So the idea of in Face Off, they've kind of cast two actors where it's debatable whether they're good actors or not. It's like, is Nick Cage good? Is John Travolta good? They can be good, but they also can be really bad. And so there are times I kind of try to apply the same idea. So I was kind of like, also two people are kind of opposed to each other. So I was like, is Keanu Reeves a good actor? Is Benicio del Toro a good actor?
Okay.
Even though he didn't win an Oscar. And then and Benicio does these really weird, eccentric roles, and Keanu kind of plays a blank slate for quite a bunch, unless it's Bill. And I kind of think those two jamming off each other would be quite fun. Trying to having Keanu going a bit full range, and then Benicio's kind of quite straight-laced. That would be quite good. For some reason, I don't know why it'd be a good idea. I just wrote down Prince William and Prince Harry. I don't know why. I just don't think that would be quite funny. And then, but I'd also
you planned this at 3 a.m. as well.
Yeah, and then I was also sat there going like, I think this isn't Face Off at all, but like I want a Hollywood grump off of Harrison Ford versus Tommy Lee Jones in just like a who's the grumpiest and like a grump face-off, because it's like the Fugitive sequel, but they're just really, really old and miserable. And then I want also separately, I want the Hollywood Chris's, Pine, Evans, Hemsworth, and Pratt to have like a 4-way face-off. Who's the best Chris?
That'd be cool.
They may be throwing Chris Rock or something, I don't know, episode out in the end, and have them lot have a bigger face off.
They're all fighting for who's the best Chris, and plot twist at the end, it's Chris Rock.
It's Chris Rock, exactly. Yeah, I don't know why. I had a good thing going with Keanu and Benicio, then it just like descended as we were talking into like I just don't know what's going on anymore. So I do something like that. I think a good one as well was do like father-son pairings. Like you have Domhnall
cool.
Gleeson versus Brendan Gleeson. It's like or John David versus Denzel Washington. Is like a face-off like that. I think they're quite good.
There's one that I can't believe you've not mentioned.
Jeff Bridges and Kurt Russell.
I mean, that's half of it.
Kurt Russell and Brad Pitt.
Kurt Russell and Wyatt Russell.
Oh yeah, well,
you're literally just talking about father-son pairing.
Because the reason why, I tell you why, because John David and Domhnall can stand on their own 2 feet in their own careers. I think Wyatt's getting there.
I don't think I've seen him in anything.
What is he in again? Now?
He's in Overlord.
He's about to be in
Jump Street.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
He's in Black Mirror for an episode.
That's in reason
Last
I know who he is.
That looks like John David's kind of got his own thing going now, and Domhnall's got his own thing. They can kind of stand toe to toe with their dads.
There was cool. One I wrote down, and I was going to leave it to you because I thought you were going to mention it, but never mind. I was going to say Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith. Have James Silent Bob swap faces and swap roles.
Yeah.
Have Kevin Smith be the loud, eccentric one, and Jason Mewes just sort of pop in every now and again with a single one-liner.
It's
yeah,
strange,
it is.
Yeah. They kind of do that in real life though, because Jay's the quiet one. Especially
that is true, actually.
I was going to say that.
In his drug years, he just sits there he was a drug addict for a bit there, James. When he does the Q&As, Jay just kind of sits there, doesn't say anything, and Kevin just talks for bloody America. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Just have them play themselves then.
Are there any others we want to throw out, or should we wrap it up there?
You could do like a live action Tim Allen, Tom Hanks going at it. Or just do like adaptation. Just watch Nick Cage versus himself in a face-off.
Anyone watch that History of Swear Words yet?
No,
not yet. Actually,
No,
I do need to sit and watch it because Nick Cage is just great.
Oh, is it a Nick Cage film?
Yeah.
I thought it was completely
like,
unrelated and left field. I thought you were genuinely just like, has anyone seen this thing?
I just lost it. No, Nick Cage is in that. He presents it.
It's
Right,
Nick Cage's
okay.
History of Swear Words
Okay.
on Netflix, and yeah, I do need to watch it because I think Nick Cage is, even when Nick Cage is bad, he's great. Like, still one of my favourite things is that long shot of him in a bear costume in The Wicker Man, where he just runs up this long path, and they for some reason they film the whole shot and leave it uncut, and he runs up and this woman turns around and she says something like, "Can I help you?" and he just decks her for no reason.
They must have been on the wind up with that film. I can't believe
It's so good.
that film.
Is Wicker Man the How'd It Get Burned one?
Yeah. Not the bees. Not the bees.
Yeah.
Is it timeless?
Oh, you know what?
Or is it
I mean,
trash?
you know what? I would actually enjoy watching that.
Oh,
film.
that might be a good one. It could bring in the views as well. Not that we care about views.
We do this for the art and the
Let's have Nick Cage month. We'll just watch 4 Nick Cage films.
I did say to Danny the other day, I can't remember how good National Treasure is. I am nostalgic for National Treasure. Oh my god.
National Treasure's. I remember National Treasure being pretty good, but it has been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, maybe that's. Wow.
Maybe
Stay
it's
tuned for. Maybe we'll do it down the line.
Well, I mean, that seems about as a good a place to wrap up as any. So, as always, thank you for watching and thank you for listening, because we are now on iTunes and Spotify, so you might be with us on there. But if you are with us on YouTube, do the whole usual: like, comment, subscribe, and wherever you're listening to us, share it with your friends, share it with your family. And until next time, bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.